the fact that both of them are trying to get out of it for different reasons is like an eye roll, right? You can see them behind the scenes talking to their lawyers and saying, what avenues can we each take to get this lawsuit dismissed against us? Hello, and welcome to another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. I hope you have had a fantastic week, and for once, I don't have a top of the show rant. Nothing to see here, nothing new going on here, and sometimes that's just the way life is. Boring, mundane, monotonous. And you know what? I actually have loved every second of it this week. I know I went on a vacation February 2nd. I was in Mexico. Oh, God, what I would do for that Mexican sun right about now. It's still 37 degrees in Northeast Ohio, but we went on vacation February 2nd, and I told David last night I feel like I'm ready for another one. Just run ragged. Truly. We all feel that way, right? We all feel that way. If you got kids, you're like in the middle of spring break season. All these baseball games, and I don't know what people with kids do. I'm trying to relate. It's not working. So let's just go ahead and dive right into this week's Pop 3. The three biggest headlines of the week. I want to start with the big one that happened at the end of last week, and that is the fact that Blake Lively now wants out of the Justin Baldoni defamation suit as well. I told you last week about how Ryan Reynolds wanted to be kaput on the lawsuit. Now Blake Lively has joined her husband, Ryan Reynolds, in trying to get this lawsuit dismissed against her. So in a new filing, she argues that Justin's lawsuit is retaliation for her filing a sexual harassment claim against him. Her attorneys specifically invoke a law that protects sexual harassment accusers in their request for dismissal. This was a law that was signed in California in 2023. It was in response to multiple defamation suits being filed against women who had spoken up during the Me Too movement. So Ryan's team, his reason for wanting to dismiss this lawsuit is, I'm an American. I have a right to free speech. I have a right to voice my opinion. My opinion is that Justin Baldoni is a predator. That's not defamation. It's my opinion. Blake's approach is this California law protects individuals from defamation suits when they report incidents of sexual harassment without malice, right? So for me personally, and I mean, I there's no way around it really when you have a husband and a wife involved in this big lawsuit. But for me, honestly, like the fact that both of them are trying to get out of it for different reasons is like an eye roll, right? You can see them behind the scenes talking to their lawyers and saying, what avenues can we each take to get this lawsuit dismissed against us? Because they both just don't come up out of, they're married, okay? They both just don't wake up one day and decide, oh, I'm going to figure out how to get this dismissed against me. Oh, no way, I was gonna figure out how to get this dismissed against me. Like, it's been a plan from the jump to try to get themselves out of it. But it doesn't stop there, right? Because Blake Lively's lawyers say that this law that was signed into California law in 2023 also means that Justin Baldoni is actually responsible for her attorney fees as well as damages if the suit does get thrown out. So this is a quote from the filing. It says, in other words, in an epic self-own, they have created more liability for themselves by their malicious efforts to sue Miss Lively into oblivion. Taking a direct quote from Brian Friedman. I was shaking in my boots, you guys remember, whenever he first said that, I'm going to sue Blake Lively into oblivion. I was like, ooh, jump scare. Well, now they're coming out and saying, look, you just created even more problems for yourself because of this California law that was signed into effect in 2023. Will it be dismissed? I have absolutely no idea. My gut instinct is to say no. I'm not a lawyer. It's like my extent of lawyer knowledge is reading these lawsuits and housewives lawsuits, and that's it, right? But I don't see I don't see a way for this to get dismissed. I think it's too big. And I'm sure Justin Baldoni's team would absolutely not have that, right? Okay. So let's move on to more legal news. Teresa Giudice and her husband, Louie. Oh, you guys, we all had just like the deepest sigh, right? I don't even need to say it. You guys know what came out this week, right? Another massive tax lien for Teresa and now Louie. It feels as though it's the beginning of history repeating itself. I hope to God, for the sake of the daughters, that it's not history repeating itself. But People magazine reported earlier this week that Teresa and Louie have been hit with over $300 million in tax liens, with Teresa owing more than $300,000 and Louie owing nearly, ready for this, $2.6 million. $2.6 million. This is in addition to a previous lien that Louie was hit with back in December for over $160,000 that is reportedly still an ongoing case. And like I said, for the rest of us, I want to hope and pray and just honestly manifest for her that it's not as it seems, right? That it's not worst case scenario, that it's not going to be history repeating itself, because need I remind you, she already spent 11 months behind bars in 2015 for mail, wire, and bankruptcy fraud while she was married to Joe Giudice. Joe served 41 months and was subsequently deported to Italy due to his status as a non-U.S. citizen. This led to their divorce in December of 2019. They finalized their divorce in September of 2020. Teresa, of course, cited Joe's actions and their consequences, including her incarceration, missing time with her late mother, as pivotal factors in her decision to end the marriage. And that's why everybody around her, so it seemed, everybody around her, when she was getting married to Louie, was warning. Not necessarily anything against Louie either. They were just warning her to protect herself. And I don't know if she took any of that advice. I remember specifically a conversation on Watch What Happens Live, I think with Andy, or maybe it was at a reunion or something. But Andy asked her, did you get a prenup? And she said no. And we all were just like, oh my gosh. It's not over, right? It's not over till it's over. And I'm hoping for Teresa's sake that there is more to this. And that leads us to headline number 3 this week. The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Garcelle Beauvais has called it quits, not returning to the show. It's so interesting to see how this played out in the press this week, because early on this week, Garcelle uploaded a video to Instagram, very happy, very appreciative, very grateful, saying there's 2 main reasons that I'm leaving. One reason is that my sons are getting older and I want to really be present for their last year of high school, and Jade's starting a new modeling career, I think. And then she's like, I'm also booked and busy, period. Like we know Garcelle's booked and busy. She's like, I have these other projects that I'm really passionate about, and, I just can't do it all. Now we know there's a third reason, and that's she hates the rest of the cast, because we got the reunion trailer the next day. We got the reunion trailer, and we also got the finale this week of Beverly Hills, and we got this Watch What Happens Live appearance with Erica and Beauvais. I was just not expecting it, because I feel like with the current cast now, specifically this Watch What Happens Live appearance, Erica and Beauvais had nothing to say when Andy asked about their reactions to Garcelle leaving. And then Erica says, won't he do it? Which, if you don't understand that reference, it's mostly what people say in churches, right? Like if they're waiting for a miracle, they're like, won't he do it? Won't God do it? So she's saying that about Garcelle leaving, which is pretty wild to me, right? Like that's a wild thing to say. And I know that they haven't been close, but I really didn't get the feeling that they were at such odds to where Garcelle would leave the show. I kind of felt like Garcelle this season has always just been playing ball, whether it's asking Kyle about Morgan or being upset with Sutton for, automatically jumping to Kyle's side and things, which that whole situation with Sutton and Kyle is just giving like Sutton so badly wants to sit at the cool kids table. Like she really needs this validation and acceptance from Kyle. And I don't know if it's because, you know, Kyle is Beverly Hills and she has been since day one, and Sutton kind of feels like she needs to latch onto that. But when she did that in the past couple episodes, it also had repercussions on her real, true friendship with Garcelle. So Bose, in this Watch What Happens Live appearance, said she's disappointed that Garcelle is departing this way. And Andy was like, what does this mean? And she's like, well, you know, there was an issue at the reunion. Garcelle got up, she left. We all saw the trailer now where she storms out. And Erica's like, we have known that Garcelle has quit for the past 2 weeks. And Andy's like, well, I don't know about that. You know, Andy's always got to smooth things over and lie to us. But Garcelle didn't take the picture with the cast. And, you know, I do have conflicting feelings about it. I liked Garcelle. I don't really find anything that she has done on the show any different than what anybody else has done. I think the stuff about her questioning Dorit's home invasion, I wouldn't do it, but I also wouldn't do the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, you know? So I do feel like she had one foot out the door anyway. I mean, she was very much so not, you know, all that involved in the first couple episodes of the season because she was busy, right? You know, but she is the only person who has brought up Morgan in this entire season. Everybody else wants to kiss Kyle's butt because she's the queen of Beverly Hills, right? I don't know. I guess it's like the mafia, the mob boss, Kyle Richards over there. And if you don't kiss the ring, like you're going to be left out in the cold. But it needed to be done. You know, and we did get a little snippet of this for the reunion trailer where Andy's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, Kyle. You did this whole music video where you were in love with this person and now we can't mention the name. Like he who shall not be mentioned, I can't say that. She who shall not be mentioned, that's it. It just doesn't work like that. You're on a reality television show. Duh. Like, duh. I did hear through the grapevine, I heard this from the Kempire, that some of the things that led up to Garcelle leaving was that Dorit's home robbery does come up at the reunion, and that Bose says to Garcelle, if I was Dorit, I would have sued you for defamation. So there could be some issues there. It could be. I would say so. I would say so. All right, moving on to this week's deep dive, we have to get all into this Bachelor finale that was wild. And I'm going to just be 100% honest with you guys. I was supposed to have an interview today. They didn't show up, so I'm winging it. I'm winging it today. If you're on my Patreon, I'll tell you who bailed on me from Bachelor Nation. But what in the world was that? What in the world was that finale of The Bachelor, right? We get down to Juliana and Litia. Grant has such a difficult time in deciding who he wants to be with, who he wants to spend the rest of his life with. Both the girls meet his family, and the family likes both of them, right? But Litia is definitely the more, I don't want to say stable, but safer option in the fact that she really communicates how she feels to Grant. Juliana hasn't gotten there yet. Is it because she's not there yet, or is it because she is afraid to say it? At this point, we don't know. But Litia comes across really well to the family. Litia gives all the answers that Mama Ellis wants to hear. And then you have Juliana, who really couldn't give those same answers to Renee, Grant's mom. And so Grant's mom says to him, if she can't say to you, I love you, then you're going to have to let this go, or I'm asking you to walk away from this. And I'm like, yes, we love a mama bear. We love a protective mom. And in the same breath, we get this really emotional moment between Grant and his dad. And I feel like, you know, sometimes when you're watching The Bachelor or Bachelor in Paradise, the love stories don't end up being the most intriguing. Sure, they are, okay? Like, don't get me wrong. But there are little hidden gems along the way. And I found this conversation with Grant's dad to be one of those hidden gems. Grant has been open about the fact that his dad has struggled with addiction, that they went through a rocky period. He's in a better place now, and they're all stronger for it. We get this really heartfelt moment of Grant's dad telling Grant, how much you have meant to me, how proud I am of you. I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for you. And it just reminded me, sometimes there's this family dynamic where the child has to be a parental figure to the parent. And you know how hard that can be on kids sometimes. And just to see that Grant had to do that at one point in his family. Grant had to step up and essentially be the man of the house whenever his dad was getting the help that he needed. And it's just nice to see, like, in real time, that role kind of go back to the way that it's, supposed to be, where Grant's dad is here for him in a time of need after Grant had been there for his dad through some really, really low lows. I thought it was a really nice moment, and I'm glad that they included it. But the rest of the episode is a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. And we thought it was going to be messy, and it ended up 10 times messier than that I personally thought. So heading into this week, I thought that Juliana was going to win because, there's a bit of a chase element there where they're both the lone wolves. Juliana really describes herself as someone who is still broken and trying to heal herself. And Grant says the same thing, right? And Litia's like, let's get married tomorrow. Let's have babies the next day. Like, ready, locked and loaded, ready to go. And I'm like, just based on my history of dating, men typically want what they can't have or what's harder to obtain or, what they can fix based on their ego. I mean, that's just my theory, right? I'm not saying that this is all 100% true about Grant, but men do think like that sometimes. So I thought he was going to pick Juliana anyways. But he's very reassuring to Litia. We did not know how reassuring he was to Litia until that final rose ceremony and after the final rose. So awkward. Everything else is kind of a blur, their last date into their last little night portion of the date, because the breakup with Litia was so intense. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. Truly, I did. Litia wakes up and she's ready to go. She's gassed up. She's like a little nervous, but she's like, I'm getting married to this guy. I'm getting married to this guy. And based on some things that I've seen of other Bachelor Nation contestants talking about it, it very much so seemed like producers also were in her ear being like, you're getting engaged, whatever, let's go. She put on the tightest dress that she could find and the highest heels, with the thunderstorms being a paid actor. We did not know it, but the thunderstorms behind her were really setting the scene for what was about to happen. I don't even know, what's the word to describe it? Because she didn't walk. She shuffled. She scooted, she baby stepped, waddled, very tightly down to Grant. She's telling him, I'm ready to give you a family. I'm ready to make you never feel alone again. I can't wait for our life together. He kisses her, right? Kisses her and says, you're not my person. And we immediately got the head cocked back and the come on now. That's a new catchphrase, by the way. Litia and her come on now. Anytime someone's lying to you from here on out, that's what we're doing. We're looking at them sideways. We are staring through their soul, because that's what she did. If looks could kill, the head tilt, we're saying, come on now. Anytime. And they immediately will scamper away and run and hide because they know they're in the wrong. But Litia's like, what? Shell-shocked. I can't believe this. The switch up is crazy, she said. So we're sitting there wondering, what did he say to her to make her this shocked? Because she was sure, like I said, maybe a little nervous, but overall sure that she was getting engaged to Grant. And he's like, I hope you don't view me differently. She's like, I do. Come on now. I do. And he's like, you feel like I misled you? And she was like, wouldn't you feel like I misled you if I did this to you? And he's like, it's not about me. She's like, it's all about you. Come on now. I mean, I know I'm saying it a lot, but I'm reiterating the point. Like, she was not happy at all. She was completely blindsided, shocked. She gets in the car with like just the most perfect tears rolling down her most perfect face. Like, it doesn't even make sense, right? It doesn't even make sense how perfect those tears are on her perfect little face in that perfect little gold dress. And she just got her heart broken on national television, and she did not see it coming. So then here comes Juliana, just ready to kick it with her man Grant. They end up getting engaged. And honestly, like, it's a bit of a blur. I've talked about the fact that I don't understand how leads can go from having like a devastating heartbreak to the next second having like the air quotes happiest moment of their life. I couldn't get out of the Litia heartbreak to really enjoy a potential engagement with Juliana, right? Like, we were all sitting there watching Grant propose to Juliana thinking, what did he say to Litia? That's what we were doing, which I feel like is unfortunate for Grant and Juliana, because all anybody is talking about is not necessarily them getting engaged. It's the drama with Litia. And that would be really hard for me. And I'm going to talk about Juliana and how she's handling this in the press. But that would be really difficult for me. So they're happily ever after. They're engaged. Then we get after the final rose. Well, I went a little bit out of order. I told you, I'm just spitting it at this point. No notes. After the final rose, Litia lets it fly. She does not hold anything back, and she brings the receipts. She says, on week 2, you told me we could stop the show right now because I'm getting engaged to you. You told that to my mother, right? The night before engagements, I said to you, I can't believe we're getting engaged tomorrow. And you said, I know, I can't wait. I love you, I love you, I love you. He gave her a journal to write down all of her thoughts and feelings for them to read it back the next time that they were together and that they were engaged. She says, you said some things to me in the overnights. Don't we always want to know what was said in the overnights? And we never know. We never know. It would be a great book deal for somebody to interview every single person that's ever been in the final 3 and pay them a lot of money to tell them what happened in their fantasy suite. Make it a chapter book. Make it a 5-part series novel and just sell it to Bachelor Nation. We still want to know what happened with Rachel and Zach in their overnight. I want to know what happened with Leslie and Gary in their overnight. And I want to know what happened with Litia and Grant. And the thing about this is that there's nothing Grant can say in this moment. Because there's no justification to it, really. There's no reason, really. And I think, there's a fine line between leading with your heart when you're on The Bachelor and leading someone on. How do you balance it, Can you say, I love you to both people? Is that leading people on? I don't think it is. I think, being vulnerable is opening yourself up to love, expressing your feelings, but it's those comments that make things seem solidified that cross the line for me, right? Her saying, we're getting engaged tomorrow, and him saying, I know, I'm so excited. That's what's wrong with it, because it's giving her all this sense of false security and false hope. Now, whether Grant was just swept up in the moment or whether he really thought that, I think the biggest problem is, and like Litia said, there was no transparency of Grant being conflicted at all. Instead of saying, I know, I can't wait, he should have said it like, I'm still struggling. I don't know what I'm going to do. Because you also can't tell me that in one moment with Litia, Grant was so certain, and then the next day he had all of this confliction in his heart, which also makes me think that isn't real. Coming down to the wire, I'm like a bit of a conspiracy theorist when it comes to The Bachelor now, because they always have to do something different to make it the most dramatic season finale ever, whether it's Daisy and Kelsey riding together, or Jen proposing to Devin, or now Grant deciding 20 minutes before who he picked. Because it felt weird, didn't it? It felt weird when he was like, I don't know what to do. I'm going crazy. How am I supposed to do this? And it was like a voiceover, and he was just like, I know who I'm going to pick. And we were like, huh? When did that happen? How did you get there? What clarity did you get in the past 20 seconds? So I personally actually don't believe that it came down to the wire. Hot take. Hot take. I think it came down to lifestyle and pressures, right? A lot of people are saying Grant chose like a fun option over a serious option. I don't really like painting it in that light, because I think Litia is still fun, and I think Juliana can still be serious about a relationship. I think what it actually boils down to is the timeline of how quickly things would get super serious. With Juliana, you have a little more leeway of enjoying the ride for the moment, right? Where it seems like with Litia, she would want a more solidified relationship quicker, right? But even Litia said, Grant knew my timeline on kids since like our second date, and it was never an issue. I only found out that it was an issue watching it back. That doesn't make sense to me. So it also was really weird because we had this super intense after the final rose with Grant and Litia, where he can't say anything but apologize. There's nothing he can really do that's going to change any of it. And then again, like a light switch, you have this happy couple that walks out and is getting interviewed by Jesse, and we're all supposed to pretend like we just didn't witness like a bloodbath 5 minutes before. Come on now, pull the Litia. Come on now. I'm waiting for Jesse Palmer to be like, Juliana, how do you feel about all of this? I understand that there's probably decisions made behind the scenes where they're like, we want to let them be a happy couple. We want them to enjoy the moment. We don't want to overshadow Juliana and Grant's moment with the Litia of it all. But it felt awkward. It did not mesh at all. And now you have all of these online reporters asking the questions, right? I mean, I've seen them do Us Weekly interviews. I think I've seen like a People magazine interview. They're doing the rounds, Good Morning America. And it's those people that are asking, well, what did you think, Juliana, of what Litia said? And she's like, first I heard that Juliana didn't watch it. Then I heard that she did watch it. But in my personal opinion, Juliana is kind of taking the approach of ignorance is bliss, where she knows the bare minimum, like what we all know. She knows that. There's no way that she couldn't know that, right? But in my opinion, she's choosing to keep her head in the clouds a little bit, saying that Litia and Grant had their relationship, and that's great. And, Litia has every right to feel the way that she feels about it because her perception is her reality. I had my own relationship with Grant. I still have my own relationship with Grant. I choose to focus on that because this is my reality. I don't know if Juliana is just a better person than I am, but there's no way that if I was in her shoes, I would not have questions in my mind. There's no way. There is no way that I would be engaged to somebody and not question the things that I heard come from Litia. Am I the only one? Am I the only one cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over here? I just couldn't do it. I could not live in La La Land. And I know they've had some time. So maybe, it's been however many months. Maybe they have had those conversations in private. But unless I missed it in these interviews, that's not what I'm picking up that she has said about it. Grant also seems very uncomfortable anytime that he's asked about Litia. And like I said, now it just feels like everyone's talking about Litia and Grant's breakup as opposed to Grant and Juliana. Can I also just say, Grant's been releasing the music. We haven't talked about the music. He released the song Party Girls in the season. It's like, girls just want to party, here for one night only. That should have told us all we needed to know. That should have told us all we needed to know. And I'm honestly not against leads pursuing their passion projects while they have this spotlight on them. But I think if you're the Bachelor and you're looking for love and you're looking to get engaged and you're looking to get married, releasing a song called Party Girls, at this moment in time is not the best look. Release a song about falling in love and release a song about wanting to live your happily ever after. But Party Girls right now was a choice. It was a choice. And, they've been saying in their interviews, we have a fun relationship. We want to go, we want to do, we want to see, we want to do all of these things. And that's cool too. It's cool. I just also feel like we have entered this era of The Bachelor where an engagement doesn't actually mean an engagement. I think for some people it does. I think there are very clear couples in the franchise now that you look at them and they're engaged. They got engaged on the show and you don't have any doubt that they're going to get married. There are other couples that have come off this show that have been engaged that you're just kind of like, I don't really know about that. I don't know where that's going to go in 5 years. 3 years, however many years. And I feel like sometimes I would love to ask a lead this question, is their real thought process, I'm getting engaged to get married, or I'm getting engaged to see where this goes? You see the difference? I don't know. Shocked that they decided not to have a Bachelorette season after this. I feel like Litia would have been a perfect choice. The face card is lethal. She's got a great personality. She's ready for marriage, babies, all the things. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see her on Bachelor in Paradise. All right, again, kind of winging it, but I do want to do a final thoughts. I did not write one because I didn't think we would have time for it with this interview I was supposed to do. But I want to talk about the Southern Charm finale because what was that? Was that the worst Southern Charm finale you have ever seen? And I'm not just being dramatic just to be dramatic. It was horrible. It was horrible. First of all, we're talking about Austin yelling to Sally, show me your boobs, in the Bahamas. Are we 12? Are we in the 7th grade? What are we doing here? And it becoming a whole thing with Taylor, Sally, and Austin, and it getting back to Austin's girlfriend. I'm like, I just had flashbacks of being in 7th grade science class with the idiots that I went to school with, right? First of all, shocking. That was just shocking. Second of all, you have this argument with Venita, Ryan, Leva, and JT. JT doesn't even show up to the finale. So it's really Venita fighting JT's fight with Ryan, who doesn't even go here. Do we even know who Ryan is? Do we even know his last name? Do we know anything about Ryan? Never seen him before until the final 2 episodes. I don't even think that he was at the reunion. Who are you? And you're stirring stuff up about the barber. Who's this barber? I mean, it sounds as ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous, and it was ridiculous. The barber, they get the barber on the phone, and JT's like, did I say, oh, there's some cute black girl trying to get with me? And the barber was like, no. And then you have Venita go up to Ryan and be like, what's going on? And you have Leva being like, Ryan, you need to chill. And I'm like, Leva, I haven't seen you since 2015. Okay, with Cameron Eubanks. The only time I've ever seen you was on a FaceTime, girl. And the random coffee shop with JT, which she announced that she was leaving Southern Charm, by the way. Who's surprised? I mean, I even said, and she even wrote in her caption, and I'm not a Leva hater, don't get it twisted. I don't hate anybody. But I always thought that Leva was still on Southern Charm to bridge the gap with Southern Hospitality. Because that's her show. She's the head honcho on that show. So I'm like, she's really only on Southern Charm so she can get people to watch Southern Hospitality, but like she doesn't really need it at this point. So she's out. I'm happy for her. Get your coin however you want to, girlfriend. The only part, this is crazy, the only part of the finale that I liked from Southern Charm was when Molly kissed Shep. Is that not the craziest sentence you've ever heard? I mean, if you would have told me going into it that Molly was just going to lay one on him, I would have been like, you're nuts. She did. And I was like, you know what? I don't even care that it's Shep and Molly's too good for Shep. She grabbed his face. She laid one on him. And I was like, cool. That's how I felt. And we've all been waiting for this extra scene. That's Craig, Shep, and Austin, where Craig is like giving the rundown of what went down between him and Paige. We saw the whole thing in the trailers before the season ended. I'm like, you're telling me you filmed for 10 minutes? There's all these like fade to black moments where Craig is like, everything was fine on Thanksgiving. She asked me to buy a ring. Fade to black. I bought her a ring. Fade to black. I'm mourning someone who's still alive. Fade to black. We saw it all before. At this point, I could recite it like a monologue. And that's it. Poof. Done. Gone. And I'm like, if they do this with Summer House, because you know they did a little pickup moment with Paige, Amanda, and Lindsay. And I'm like, if we see the entire conversation that Paige has with Amanda and Lindsay, someone deserves to be fired on the production team. Because I want to learn new information. I've already seen the clips on TikTok 1,200 times. Okay? This is what happens when I have no notes. I spiral and I lose my mind. So I hope it was okay. I mean, like I said, what's the phrase? Threw caution to the wind. That's what I've been trying to say. We just threw caution to the wind today. And if you like that, you need to listen to The Seriously Show, because that's what David and I do for 30 minutes every single week. So make sure you search The Seriously Show. Patreon girlies, we're going in on Bravo Friday. You are not going to want to miss it. More Bachelor news on Tuesday. So if you want more episodes of MPT, make sure you subscribe to the Patreon, the Love You Like Assist tier. You get all these discounts on my merch. You get every tier for the price of two. Look, I'm trying to save you money in this economy, so let's do it. If not, leave me a review, a little 5-star boop boop, a little Love You Like Assist, because you know I do. See you later. Bye.